Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads. As it happens, actually, it's also the 100th completed episode. There's about half a dozen more in various stages of production, and there were 7 pilot episodes that will never be shown. So let's call this the 100th that's ready for you. And it's also the first of what I was going to call deep dives, but it turns out everybody calls them deep dives. So instead, this is a 3-biscuit guide. I'm assuming you have your own tea. Bring 3 biscuits, because this time we're going to go into a very detailed look into Apple Notes. Everything about Apple Notes that you're ever going to need to know. It's a 58 Keys special. It's the first special all about Apple Notes in this detail. And I've chosen Apple Notes partly because you've already got it. It's on your Mac, your iPhone and your iPad. Also because it's just been updated to some new, small but brilliantly transformative new features. So, with 3 biscuits in hand, thereabouts, we are going to explore and exploit Apple Notes. Maybe 4 biscuits. First off, and possibly not the most exciting thing, is finding your way around Apple Notes. I'm going to be showing this to you on the Mac because bigger screen, easy to show you, does everything. It's almost exactly the same on the iPad. It's very nearly almost exactly the same on the iPhone, and actually that's one of the reasons for doing this. It's the same on all of them. Have a quick thought while you're at it on your iPhone, and there it is on your Mac when you come back. Work on your iPad, work on your Mac, interchange. Just reach for the nearest screen and there is that note you made of that person's phone number that you need to call, of that one line of dialogue you've got of a script, that title you've got for a next novel. It's all there, and you work on it and you carry on it wherever you are. There are a couple of things that are different enough that we need to step away and look at them. So I will at some point show you bits from the iPhone, bits of the iPad, but for the most part we'll concentrate on the Mac. And this business is about finding your way around it. I mean, I think you can cope with this. It's an app, you write things in it, but there are actually two and a bit things I don't like about Apple Notes, and they all come up, well, certainly the big 2 ones, come up in this thing of finding your way around. This is Apple Notes on the Mac, right? So here we have nothing. I should say, by the way, this is real. You know, I don't actually know how to create a fake account and do Apple Notes with just nonsense examples in it, because this is my real Apple Notes thing with my real notes. So if you accidentally see anything to do with, you know, finances or business or secret plans for future 3-biscuit guides, you look away. Here's a list of folders. There you go. There's straight away. Here's the thing. Awards work I'm doing on. I keep a list of all the public speaking events I make. I don't know why, but well, now it's a long list. I rather like it. But back to the point here. Here is a list of every notes in the world ever made. Quite a few of them. And here are different folders for things. Let me go back to there because I want to show you something. And also get rid of all of that text to see. If this section here is the list of folders, this is a list of notes. You just saw that. I was in a folder and it listed all of the notes were in it, but then this big, the major part of the pane, the window, is the note itself. Here's the first thing I don't like. There are no notes here. Yeah, there are. Here is, I did create this for you, 58 Keys example, no notes at all. But you see this thing here, this has got a disclosure triangle. You click on that and oodles of notes in here, in fact 6 of them. I think that's dreadful. I could be looking down this list of notes and see, well, under clients, I have no clients, do I? Can't open that one to show you, but there's something like half a dozen, and with any one of them, some actually say 0 because they've just got folders within them of the current work, and in that current work, 20, 30, 40 notes of it, but still it says 0. I find that really annoying, actually, and I wish it wouldn't be like that. Once you know, though, I suppose you get used to it and things, and obviously I do know. Obviously I find it, I've whinged about it enough. I might as well tell you the second thing I don't like. This is the main view of the app, and you can, on the Mac, you can reshape it. I tend to have it as a narrower column over to one side when I'm working on other things. Here I want you to see a kind of chunky version with it all laid out in one visible spot, so I haven't changed the shape, but you can also alter things within the shape. So here's the list. You can change it to a view of notes that way. Not a lot to see here, but I actually quite like this because they're thumbnails and I can recognize the shape of text. When it's a bigger folder with lots of things, it's more visual, especially when those notes include images and things that you'll see in a second. So you can view by this kind of grid index. I tend to view by list. But then here, you remember this thing, the list of the folders, the list of the things in the folders, and then you can move your cursor there, pop it away. I like that. What I don't like is this. Let's move the cursor there. You can't drag back in. In certain other apps on the Mac, you can. Drag it in, drag it out. It's very neatly done. On the iPad, you don't get that option to drag, but as you go from a folder into a list, into a note, the folder and the list, they just get kind of out of the way until you are ultimately left with the note. Well, you can't quite do that on a Mac, but you can increase the room. And then on the iPad, you hit the back button to go back to the folder and all the lists, and it's fine. Actually, I keep saying 2.5 irritations. The half is this. I only found this trying to lay this out to you, to talk to you. You know how you do things, it's only when you try to explain to someone else. So I'm thinking, well, what should I tell you when? And I knew I wanted to look at that grid view because you might find it more useful than me. I like it occasionally, but other people view it all the time. So there I was on the iPad working out how do you do it on the iPad, and there's a button to go into it. On the iPad, I managed to end up with the list view permanently, and I could not find how to get it out. I'm saying that past tense because I know it's me. I know there's got to be a way. I will find it. If you happen to know, if you spot, as you see the videos through this, of what I'm doing on the iPad, if you see where I've pushed the wrong button, I'd be so glad if you'd tell me in the comments below, but now you're just looking at me. Let's do something that starts off as a little tedious as well. Yeah, that's not fair. Tedious is wrong. Obvious, I think, is the word I'm looking for. Create a new note. Let me get back to having the views and things so we can see everything in one go. I said you can't drag around on the Mac. You can, however, do this. Well, you have to do this. View, show folders. And I'd like to make that column a little wider. Nice that we can make that a little wider. Shame we can't drag in and out of here. This tends to be the view I use most of the time because I tend to be in and out of different folders and different things. And you can drag things from different folders and in and out. And I do that a reasonable amount. To start a note, there you go. You can tap that icon. Let's go back into here. New notes. No, let's do one in there. You could also, of course, do Command N. There are other ways to create a note, though. You can, for example, just ask Siri. Tell Siri to create a note about whatever, and whatever becomes this top line here, which you see is in a bolder heading kind of font. Siri creates a note, adds it into notes. Or how about this? I find this most useful on the iPhone and the iPad. You're in an app, or maybe somebody's just emailed you a file. You want to save it somewhere, you'll find it later. You can tap the share icon in any app on the Mac, on the iPhone or the iPad, and choose notes from within it. And that creates a new note with whatever the, I suppose, attachment is, the image, the file, the folder, anything like that. Saves it into Apple Notes and you can get it back later. It can be quite hard finding that note later, as you can just kind of wax it in there somewhere. But we'll come to finding notes later, because you'll come to finding notes later. You spent a lot of time looking for notes. Or you did. There are now quicker ways of doing it. I particularly like these. But this is a note. That's a very boring title. That's a note, and the first line of the note, it's not in any way different. It's not like in a word processor where you might have a chapter heading or something like that, or the way Final Draft keeps a title page in a completely separate document for some reason. That is just the first line of the note, but it's treated specially. It's given as the kind of name of it, and the rest. Doesn't have to be smaller, though. If I chose later to have a heading, I could select that, and under here, oh sorry, I've got to get rid of pop clip. Let me get rid of that. Pop clip is this nice little extension. I'll keep a link to a 58 keys about it. It brings kind of iPhone, iPad style pop-up things to the Mac, and I just find it really useful for very fast copying and pasting and looking up things. But back to it. Quick pop clip here, highlight that, and under here I can give it the same style of the note. Well, actually, now that's the same, and I can do other things like that to the text all the way through. So you can do reasonably formatted text. There are things to do. You can do some tabbing. There are slight differences in that between the iPad and the Mac and the iPhone, so I don't tend to use that very much, but you might. If I were going to use a document that needed tabs, that needed lots of layout and things, I would be using Pages or possibly Microsoft Word if it was a bad day and the wind was in the east, but most likely not Apple Notes for this. Notes to me is for adding in quick thoughts, and I might then shape them, and I find in the shaping I might edit them, and then in the editing I might well extend them. I have accidentally written entire articles in Apple Notes, because you know, you put a thing in there with, well, I've got to cover this, this and this. How will I explain that? Well, I'd say this, and then the next thing you know, you hit return and you're writing the next paragraph and the next paragraph. I do this quite a lot in quite a few apps. Apple Notes, Omni Outliner, all sorts of things. Omni Outliner is a different app which we might well do a Three-Biscuit guide to. Broadly the difference is it's more for organising ideas really once you've got them down. Apple Notes is just like for capturing things in my mind anyway. But not just capturing words though. Yeah, we can do words like this, but we could also do, let's say we want a table. There you go. Something like that. Where is my typing today? That's how it works, isn't it? And notice, by the way, I just hit return after film movie and I got a new, oops. I meant to do that later. So, and you notice then after I did film movie, I just hit return and I got some text. If I write something now and then hit return, I get more text. But if I don't, then I break out of the table. Similarly, we can do, similarly in that sense of getting in and out of things, we could do this. Let me give some more room for that. This is a first checkbox. Hit return. Hit return, and we're out of the checkboxes. Nice thing with the checkboxes, you can do that. But did you notice then what also happened? Let me just click on the first one. Let me do this in slow motion. Optionally, you can have it so that when you have a row of checkboxes, ticking one of them moves it to the bottom of the list. So all the unchecked, unticked, undone things stays at the top. Can be handy for things like a packing list. So you just have to look at the top of the screen, right? That's the next thing, that's the next thing. Other people do their to-do lists in here. You can. It's not exactly OmniFocus strength powered to-do app specialized stuff, but you can do it. You don't have to have that option though. There's an option in settings that says whack ticked things to the bottom, but it can be handy. I'm just occurred to the fact that I've written first, second, third. What if I actually wanted to do it as this? Just by writing a number, one and then the full stop and writing text, I got this text. It's a little bit of a pain actually if the next thing you want to do is 6, excuse me, but Yeah, how do you get 6? Maybe that's third irritation, not sure. It's not like that's going to come up very often, but I have had it when I can't remember. I was thinking I was doing scene numbers. These are the scenes that need to change in a script, and it was scene 7, 9, 13, 14. And the number was strange, and I couldn't actually do it in this. I think I did a trick. I did space and then the number and this. But you don't want to be fiddling around with that kind of stuff. So that's another case where something like Omni Outliner might be better. I've realised, by the way, that what I tend to do is I tend to type. That's almost exclusively what I use Apple Notes for. Constant typing. I kind of love typing, so it's fine. But if you have an Apple Pencil and an iPad, then there is nothing to stop you handwriting into Apple Notes. Well, I mean, there is in my case. I've tried and I physically cannot read my handwriting. I can't read it on anything. I'm not proud of this, but my typing speed's improved because I can't. To help you with it on an iPad, you can very easily add lines and grids that helps you. It makes you like a school exercise book if you want. Back on the Mac and on the iPad and all this, it's particularly this one's easiest on the iPad. Let's see. I want to do another new note. Blank note. That's a recording of a local radio appearance I did the other day. That's a script I'm working on. It's a final draft script. What else is there? Oh, let's just drag in an image. No, that's just no, let's get rid of that. That just freaked me out there a little bit. I was doing a thing about macro shots in iPhones and the iPhone 13 Pro, the way I can get in there. But that's quite disturbing, so we won't do that. Let's do one more. Okay, a Pages document, isn't it? Yes, a Pages document, which is actually another script, so a radio script. So that's film, that's radio, that is actually radio, that's recording for it. You can store anything you like in Apple Notes. It doesn't have to just be writing. And actually, you don't have to drag things in like that. You can kind of create them within Apple Notes. This is particularly to do with images and scans and documents. There's a thing called Continuity Camera, which is actually a little bit flaky for me, but when it works, it's superb. This is how it works. You're in Apple Notes. You choose to add a scanned document. So you pick from the list of which I seem to have quite a lot of iPhones attached at the moment, iPhones and iPads. You may just have one or maybe none. If you've got none, then I don't really know what to suggest. Turn on your iPhone. Turn on your iPhone, it is in the list, and you can choose Scan Documents. Without you doing anything else, your Mac or your iPad, it tells the iPhone to switch on into the camera mode. Switches into the camera mode, ready to scan a document, starts doing all sorts of things to kind of find the edges of a page, lets you save that. Sometimes it's so certain it's got your page, it'll just save it automatically, which is quite perturbing, actually. You think you're sort of trying to arrange in the vision, it's done. It's really, really good at scanning documents. It's much better at scanning than if you just held the camera over yourself and took a photograph, because it does a lot of work to treat it as a document, and it gives you options for adjusting the edges to make sure it's got it right, all sorts of things. It's great. Where it's not so great is it's supposed to be able to just scan and scan and scan. You should be able to do hundreds, thousands of pages of a document. And in practice, for me, I find, for whatever reason, after 2 or 3, it's gone. And when it's gone, it's lost it all. It's very annoying. Slightly annoying is also the fact that when you've done it right, when you've got the document and you say, yes, that's it, then also it's gone from the iPhone. The iPhone goes back to whatever it was doing before, back to the home screen. And you just for a moment think, well, has it just gone, or has it gone? Fine differences between. I wonder how YouTube subtitling is getting on with this section. You'll know it's worked because you're going back into Apple Notes and there is your document in the note. I say your document, it'll be the scan, it'll be like these attachments here. It's fresh and new, freshly baked into Apple Notes directly from your iPhone. This is still on the section of just finding your way around. Finding your way around and creating new notes. A couple more things to tell you about what you can do with a note in general, beyond typing and adding things to it. One thing you can do is you can pin a note to the top. If you've just got one note, you physically won't see the difference. When you have a lot here, or if I go into reference material like this, yeah, kind of regretting that. I hope I cut away from some of that stuff. You're not supposed to see it. This is an amazing number of notes here in this list. God, can't possibly read all the way through that to find something. So you can pin a note. That's pin note on the Mac, and it's even easier, I think, on the iPad. This pin note, it's going to stay there forever. When this genuinely does have hundreds, what have I got? 30, 56, 20. Well, you remember what I said about folders within folders? I know there's a lot more. I mean, if you added all of these up, it wouldn't come to 1,363. It'd come to a lot more than that. But let's say you're in a folder and it has 11 billion of these. That one will stay at the top. So will this one if you pin that there. Now the two of them are pinned at the top of the list. So you could undo the benefit of this. You could pin loads of notes and they'd all be stuck up there. But you notice, for example, I have a thing here called reference material. There are certain jobs I do with certain clients. There's a magazine I edit maybe twice, maybe 3 times a year, and there's certain things I do the PDF version, the online version, and there are things that just they're a little bit fiddly and I cannot remember how to do them, so I make a note and I have them in there and I call them up each time I need to do it. You can do this stuff, and within that note I have lots of other things to say to do with the current issue, the new issue, working documents to do with the new issue, but I still want these notes, so I pin those reference notes at the top of that list. Pinned notes, incredibly useful when you have a lot of notes. And here's the thing, you're going to have a lot of notes. I think I deleted a note yesterday, probably just to see if you can delete notes. How can you delete notes? Oh, there you go. You can delete a note, but you don't ever actually have to. Let's say, what's the opposite of delete? Let's say, obviously pinned is pretty much the opposite because you want to keep it. How about locked notes? This isn't like if you write film scripts and things, you get to a certain stage in the production and the script is called locked. You can't change the scenes and things because wardrobe needs to know that on page 45 you're going to have the ball gown kind of thing. You can't suddenly make that be page 64 or something. Things you can do, but you lock pages, you lock scripts. It's not like that. It's more like, well, it's putting a password on things. This is a new note. I want to password protect it. I click on lock, and now password and verify. Take a look at this on the iPad where it's subtly different. I mean, pretty subtly different. The top bit's all the same, except you have Face ID. Because iPads have cameras and so do iPhones, you can create a note and lock it with Face ID, but you have to also do a password. You've got to do a password, you've got to verify it. Because think what would happen if you make a note on your iPad, you lock it with Face ID, and then you want to open it on your Mac, which doesn't have Face ID. So it's got to be both. I don't know how often you'll lock a note on an iPad or an iPhone. Maybe it's more common on a Mac. Even on the Mac, you've got at least that screen login thing before somebody else can nip in and see your notes. On an iPad, it's got to be your face that opens it, or maybe your finger on the Touch ID button. Same on the phone. But it's an extra level of security. Don't put your passwords in there. Use a password manager for that. But for some reason, a Christmas list for your partner or something. I mean, if your partner's going to go rooting around your Apple Notes, do they deserve Christmas? I've only locked one note in my life, and it was yesterday when I was checking how to lock notes, so I could show you. Now, that is how to find your way around notes. It's not the same as searching for notes. We'll come to that because there's a lot you can do there to help organise things. But it's where everything is in Apple Notes, how you create a new note, and pretty much everything you can do in it. But there is now this. This is the smallest thing that changes everything, really. Certainly changes every app. No matter what you're doing on your Mac or your, oh, the niece said iPhone then, that's not true. Anything you're doing on your Mac or your iPad, any app, any website you're on, you can at any moment use a quick note. I actually think this is much better on the iPad than on the Mac, and it isn't on the iPhone, unfortunately. But while we're looking at the Mac, here I move my cursor down to the bottom corner, and up comes this little thing. It's a tiny little nugget of a thumbnail of a pixel. Tap on it, and I have a new note. Very specifically, it's a quick note. Actually, let me close that. Quick notes automatically go in here. This is a quick notes folder. If you haven't created it, it creates it the first time you do a quick note. That's how you get to a quick note when you come back to Apple Notes, but that's not really the point. The whole point of quick notes is that at any point you can go back down to that corner, bring it up, and create another new note. This is why I think it's actually better on the iPad. On the iPad, I love this. I use it so much. You're working in Pages and you think of an idea for another story. You're in a website and you think this is quite a useful link for that other project. I might want to save that. You just swipe up, or use your Apple Pencil if you have it. Swipe up from the corner, write your note, push it back out of the way. The speed of that. You're working away, somebody phones, swipe up, jot down whatever you got to do, swipe it back. And then later you can find it by coming here to Quick Notes on the Mac or on the iPad. But you can also just swipe back up. This is a tiny bit inconsistent. In theory, if you are looking at a website and you make a quick note, then the next time you go to that website, the iPad and the Mac will offer you a little nudge of the same quick note so that you can add to it. I'm finding that really reliable on the iPad, for some reason less so on the Mac. Not sure why yet. But even if it doesn't offer it to you, you can find it quickly. Again, though, best on the iPad. The thing with the iPad actually is, you saw the way this new note appeared on the Mac. Well, yes, it's like that on the iPad, but on the iPad, all of your quick notes are in one window. So you can open up one and then swipe back and forth to all of them. It wouldn't be a good idea to have a million of these notes, but I've got 20 or so. If I do something like that, I can quite easily swipe back and forth to get to what I want for it. And you can also deliberately pin, and pin's not the word because we've used pin already. You can link, you can associate a quick note with a website, with an app. And here's how you do it. With a website, you tap that button. I was using that during the beta process for iOS 15, iPadOS 15 and macOS Monterey, and I was finding that it's working really well with certain apps from the Omni group. Omni Outliner and OmniFocus, for example. They were really hot on doing this. Since Monterey isn't out yet, as I talk about, but since iPadOS 15 came out and things, as Monterey gets closer to final release, I'm finding fewer apps are kind of getting on with it as well. So I think this is going to expand and get better, but already, right now, look what this means, particularly on the iPad. Whichever app you are using, whichever website you look at, whatever you're doing on a Mac, swipe up, make a note, push it away. It is this amazing note-taking facility that basically Apple has added to every app that exists. This is going to get people to switch to Apple Notes. I think it's so useful, it's so quick. The day I started using it, fantastically useful. I say fantastically useful. It is on the Mac, it's great. On the iPad, it is superb. On the iPhone, it's nothing. Officially, there is no quick note on the iPhone. Yeah, but there is, kind of. This isn't as good, okay? This is not as good as a real quick note, but you know the thing where you saw that folder that had all the quick notes in? Well, that folder is on your iPhone as well. Create a quick note on any of the other devices. Quick notes folder is created in Apple Notes. That Apple Notes folder is on your iPhone. So wherever you are, you can reasonably quickly get to read any of the quick notes you've created. So that's just excellent. What you can't do is create a note quite so quickly. There's no swipe up, right, push away. But there is this. You can use Control Center. So swipe down, tap the Notes button, and you're into notes, you're writing a brand new note. Well, two parts to this. One is it's not a quick note in the sense that it doesn't get saved in that quick notes folder. It just goes to whatever folder you were last in Apple Notes. And actually that's a bit of a pain sometimes trying to find these things. Also, your control center won't necessarily have that notes button. By default, it doesn't. So you need to go on your iPhone to settings, control center, and then add notes to it. And you can move notes around the screen for it to make it handy for wherever your thumb is or something like that. It's nowhere near as good as swipe up, right, push away. I mean, hopefully Quick Notes will come to the... You're going to love Quick Notes so much you'll want it to come to the iPhone. But this is as close as we can get, and it's reasonably close. Because the trouble is, with Quick Notes, with these notes, with sharing things from apps, you're going to end up with a lot of notes. And then, well, you need to find things. I think in practice you're going to find there are notes you make that you never look back at again. They just kind of gather dust somewhere. I have shopping lists in here somewhere. But when you do need to work on notes, when you do need to find them, there are ways to organise and there are ways to search. And you can see one way to organise straight away. Here are folders. Let me go back here to this list. This is a new quick note. I'll put it in pictures and I will never, never show you the contents of the pictures. You didn't just freeze frame there, did you? That's future work. Come on, just move on. So you can do that. You can create, you can drag a note into a folder. You can create a folder down here. Ignore that for the moment, please. Create a folder and give it a name. I find this a little bit fiddly. I mean, that isn't. New folder, there it is. Give it a name, fine. But depending on what you've got selected, that folder might appear under here. It might be within the 58 keys example. It might be loose. Most of the time it feels loose, and I will actually drag it into a folder. I'll drag it there. I might move it later. I keep meaning to do a kind of archive folder where I'll just drag anything to all that client stuff. When it's done, drag it out, but never get round to it. And you don't have to. Let this stuff accrue and accrue, except for the fact that it then makes it hard to see the note you want. Having as many notes, I mean, 1300 is not very many really. You can have as many as you need and it's all fine. Who cares? It's yours to do with what you want, except when what you want to do is to find them. Then there are ways to do this that mean you don't have to be very organised at all. There are ways to get it to automatically organise things for you. Some of this is new, actually, and it's another reason why I wanted to do a Three-Biscuit guide to Apple Notes. Now, let's do a quick note. Bad use of term. Let me just do a new note there. This is a note I can't find. You make a note, and then later you can't find it. So when you make the note, it's worth taking a moment to think later, when I will look for this, what is it I will search for? I mean, I'm not going to remember to search for, this is a note I can't find. I'm not going to remember to search for whole paragraphs that I've written. But I might remember that this was a note when I was talking to you. So I could do hashtag you. I've now created a tag, and this is new. Tags, like they are in Twitter, hashtag followed by absolutely anything at all. Let's do hashtag urgent. Notice, by the way, it started to fill out urgent because that's obviously a tag I already use. I mentioned, I think, companies and clients. Let's say I work for the Acme company, and I keep a lot of finances. Yeah, right. I'm trying to think of ones I haven't come up with. Elephant. Okay, that must have been a strange day. Tarmac, yay, that's a new one. Brexit, no, let's not go there. You can do any word preceded by a tag, by a hash. Hash, then the word, closed up, hit the spacebar or hit return, and you've now created a tag. And as you can see, it highlights it like that. It doesn't have to be one word, it can be others. Deeply important. Anything you like. You can go crazy with these. You can create too many of them. You can end up with hundreds of thousands of tags, and then they kind of, they lose their power, really. One suggestion is, you see this one here, finances. Make a decision. Decide that all of your tags are going to be plurals, because you could very well be doing one that's hashtag finance and another note where you put hashtag finances, and that's fine, you can find them, but later on when you've looked at all of the ones with finances in, you don't know whether you've covered everything that had finance in. If you do hashtag money, then you're on your own, but finances, do them as plurals. And I just said, looking through all of them, yes, you can do that manually, and yes, manually you would find all of these if you schlepped through every single note. Does it have finances? Does it have finance? Does it have any hashtag in it? But you can also do this down here. This is sometimes hidden under a disclosure triangle, so if you don't see it, it's there. Similar thing on the iPad down the bottom of the list. I want to see all notes that have deeply important to them, and there it is. It's the only one. I want to see all the ones that have urgent in, and there aren't any. Well, there is one, sorry, there's this. This is the only note out of all of them that has both deeply important and urgent. It doesn't have tax, so there are no notes for it. There isn't an or yet. I can't say finance or finances and tax. I can't say tax or money and Acme. It's an accrual, an accretion of tags that you can add or remove. Quick way, though, to sort through all your files and find things. Except, why should you have to do that? Let Apple Notes do it for you, and it will. See this new folder thing? New Smart folder. And in here, you do once you say deeply important, you do urgent. That'll do me. And now, let's give it a name. Hit return, and here it is. It's just another folder, except you notice a slight difference there. The icon, it's not a folder. That's saying it's like a gear icon. It's a smart folder. That will automatically add things. In fact, let me do a quick note. Deeply important. And now go back to here. This, without my doing anything, this smart folder has found them both. That's it. That's all I want. I put stuff in here for me to remember, to refer to work on. But quite often, you may be wanting to find that information for someone else. There's some medical stuff in there that my mum wanted to know for her GP. I kept it there so I knew I could find it whenever she wanted it. Fine. She phoned me. I found the note. I read it out to her. There are certain jobs I do with a group of people where for some reason I seem to have ended up being the one who holds the notes while I hold them in here. And when we need them in a meeting, I bring them out. I might paste them into the chat box in Zoom. I might email them around before them. But really, it's a kind of a manual process of me looking, me finding, me sending things out. You can do more than that, though. I have one client who shares a folder full of notes with me. You can share one note with someone. You can say, this note I'm working on can be seen by me and this person, these people. This person and these people, they can certainly see the note. That always happens. If you share it, they can see it. If you want, you can have it so that they can edit as well, and also add notes. The client who sends me a folder full of notes, generally we tend to be only working on one note in it, so the folders accrue in this list of notes that neither of us ever look back at, but I could drag a new note in there if I needed that client to see it. He could delete everything and it would remove from mine as well as his. It's as if each of us have created the document, because he's chosen. He's the creator and he has given me the sharing ability to do these things. Incredibly useful when it's incredibly useful. In that case, he and I, this one person in this one client is using Apple Notes. I'm using Apple Notes. Deeply handy to have all of these things. Let's say extend it further. There's two thoughts here. One is what happens when there's loads of you, and one happens when not all of you are using Apple Notes. The thing with loads of you, no difference. If there were 50 of us sharing this particular folder, 50 of us are sharing this particular folder. We just all add, receive. Maybe some people can only see it, others have editing privileges to it, up to the creator, and the creator can assign and remove and all that. That's fine. But then there's also this. You know what it's like when you get notes from editors and things? There are some editors that you pay a bit more attention to than others. We didn't say that, but you know it's true. Let's say an editor really, really needs you to notice and react to a note. They can mention you. Type the @ symbol and your name for it. Now, I don't want to show you this directly because the note I'm sharing is with a particular client, so client confidentiality and all that. If you are sharing a note and you hit the @ symbol, all of the names of the people that are sharing that note are displayed to you. You can choose them and they're going, and it looks very much like a tag for it. It's a tag that you can find, but also their attention is drawn to it. There's a mention things. They can go in and see, someone has mentioned me, where is it? And they get that note directly. So we don't tend to do it, but with that client who does, the notes tend to be divided into sections. Maybe he wants my opinion or my addition or something to one particular section. He could do @William and I would be notified of that. It becomes a collaborative tool. It's not as comprehensive as, say, Google Docs for it. It's not as ugly as Google Docs either, but it's a handy kind of thing. It's a handy thing in certain cases, really useful when it's really useful. The majority of the time, I am writing Apple Notes for myself. Which brings you to that other point, doesn't it, of Apple Notes when you need to share a note with somebody who isn't on Apple Notes. Well, you can copy and paste, can't you, and send things out. You could also just send a copy of the note to someone. Again, they have to kind of receive in Apple Notes for it to be particularly useful, but you can do it. There are all these ways of getting information out of Apple Notes and to other people. I just find, we're writers. We spend so much time writing, really. Apple Notes has become this amazingly useful companion tool for me as a writer, not necessarily as a writer with an editor, with a producer. I had this idea, right, that I was going to have a plate of biscuits and that at intervals throughout this video I would eat one. I was willing to rehearse for you and do that, but instead I got so into it, I just kept talking at you. Look, I'll tell you what, let's you and I just go and have those biscuits now. I feel we may have earned them. Except, could you let me know in the comments, please, whether this kind of Three-Biscuit deep dive thing is actually any use to you? Also, I'm in the works for Final Draft, Scrivener and Pages in a similar amount of detail. Is there any other app that you think I might know about that you'd be that interested in? It isn't like I know every app, but it is like I really enjoy getting to know them this much. So let me know in the comments below. I'll be particularly grateful this time. Also, subscribe. You know how that usually works, how that usually helps with YouTube things? Well, I think it's extra special this time because most 58 Keys are going to be the regular episodes about writing apps, writing services, devices, particularly now. As I record this in late 2021, lots of new Apple devices for writers. Going to be all about those. But then periodically, pretty much as I can get them done right, there are going to be these Three-Biscuit guide to software apps. So they're not every week. 58 Keys is every week, but these will take longer. If you subscribe, and there's the bell thing, notification thingy, this will tell you when all the episodes are out, including the Three-Biscuit guides. Hoping to build up to quite a library of these because there's so much to say about these things. Love it. Thank you very much for watching this one. Listen, you don't have to write in Apple Notes, but you have to write, don't you? You and me both. We're writers. We should be writing. So, take care of yourself. Let's write some more, and I'll see you soon.